At this time, we would like to welcome any members of the public who have signed up to speak. Any member of the public joining us in person who wishes to speak should sign a blue sign-in card and return it to staff. If there's a specific topic of discussion or agenda item you would like to speak on, please list that on the card. If any members of the public have signed up to speak remotely, you will remain in the Zoom waiting room until it is your turn to speak, and I will address you to indicate when you may begin. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. We do enforce that time limit, and we will notify you when your time is completed. We do have, I believe, 5 members of the public presently signed up to speak. The first is Taryn, and I believe the last name is pronounced Champagne. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Taryn Champagne, and today my commentary will be on item C2 regarding remote proceedings. Over the past year, I've engaged in court watching, and over this time, I've watched probably somewhere around 35 to 40 court hearings. In a large number of these cases, attorneys get really antsy about having members of the public watching their hearings and try to raise this as an issue to the judge. Many of these attorneys then seek to have these hearings closed to the public, and in my opinion, this is so they can abuse pro se litigants in private. I've had it happen to myself. It is either they wish to abuse these pro se litigants in the private where people aren't watching, or they are frightened to have their incompetence exposed. These star chamber proceedings are the hallmark of a corrupted legal system and in every way violate the open courts doctrine of the Texas Constitution, which clearly states all courts shall be open. There is nothing in there that says only criminal courts. All means both civil and criminal. This is not acceptable and is clearly a deliberate attempt by attorneys to silence those who would expose their inadequacies and corruption. What is beautiful, however, about the remote proceedings being broadcast online is it allows the public greater access to the courts than ever imaginable in history. People should be able to be an active part of our government. They can do this not only by watching and seeing how their government works, but also deciding how they making decisions regarding whether a judge is effective and deserves their vote or not. Or they can observe attorneys that are also public figures and determine whether they are competent and should deserve their business. When I see attorneys like Daryl Weinman, Rasheen Mazahari, or Jeffrey Bernstein arguing for closing the courts, in my opinion, it shows they are corrupt and are concerned that their ineptness will be exposed. Specifically from the disciplinary rules of professional conduct, it states, a lawyer is a representative of clients, an officer of the legal system, and a public citizen having special responsibility for the quality of justice. Lawyers, as guardians of the law, play a role in the preservation of society. Currently, there's a lot of mistrust in the legal system. That's why I'm here testifying. The bar can assist in restoring the public's trust in the legal system by advocating for the continued usage of remote proceedings that can be watched by the general public. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and by having people watch what is happening in courts, we can root out the bad actors. At this time, it concludes my testimony. Do I have any questions?
There are none, and we thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Our next member of the public is George Saldana. The floor is yours, sir.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I'm a little hoarse. My name is George Saldana. I'm an advocate. I'm the founder of Texas Team 2503, Interference with Child Custody. As some of y'all attorneys know, in family courts, possession and access is a huge issue within the state of Texas. Not only is it a civil matter, but it's also a criminal matter. Texas Penal Code 2503, interference with child custody is a state jail felony. And so what we've been doing when it comes to Zoom proceedings is we've been court watching for some of our members. And just like Taryn said, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And what we've seen are attorneys trying to motivate judges to close off these proceedings. We have an interest in this because we're starting to see where possession and access is not being enforced on the judicial side. And as we know, police are telling our members, advocates, and others that interference with child custody is a civil matter and take it back to court. With that going on, it's just a full circle, right? You send them back to civil court. They keep paying to play until they run out of money. So these Zoom proceedings are very important to the public to make sure, just like Taryn said, to ensure judicial accountability, not only for the judiciary, but also for attorneys. Y'all read the Constitution, which is continually violated in family courts. And if every member here has an interest in cleaning up the judiciary where the public has confidence in the judiciary, then I would ask that y'all help us keep these proceedings open. We know by the Texas Constitution and the United States Constitution, the open courts doctrine, it says these courts need to remain open. But unfortunately, we're being shut out and the public's being shut out. And eventually it's all going to come downhill. One of your family members are going to be in court and they're going to be played with dirty attorneys. And I think y'all need to do a better, and not specifically anybody in the crowd, but I think some people need to do a better at controlling some of these attorneys that are running rogue. We've talked to the State Bar grievance or committee over the grievance committee. And so we know that there's problems within the grievance committee and holding some of these lawyers accountable. And so the movement's really growing, whether some people like it or not. There's a lot more court watchers that are getting involved. There's more criminal lawyers are not immune from criminal liability. While they zealously can fight for their clients' rights, it must be within the bounds of the law. And these attorneys are pretty much trying to slander a person or defame a person in court without making statements of facts. I'm sorry, was that my time limit?
Yes, yeah, that's your time limit. If you could wrap up, please.
Yes, sir. Some of these attorneys are making statements of facts on the record, trying to poison the well. And that right there, when you're talking about children and trying to remove children from other parents, that's just totally unethical. And that's, I guess, what y'all don't stand for. Y'all want ethical attorneys. But I'd like to wrap up, tell y'all thank y'all for letting me come on. If y'all have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Our next speaker is James, and again, I apologize if I don't have the pronunciation right. I believe it's Stanzek, and the floor is yours, sir. I believe you're on mute.
Oh, I want to say thank you all for giving me a moment to speak. And I'd like to start out. I've got messages saying, don't come on and that I'm going to be made a martyr and stuff like that. But the first thing I would like to do is read a verse from the Bible. And this is in Jude 20:17. Dear friends, remember what the apostles of our Lord Jesus Christ foretold. They said, in the last times there will be scoffers who will follow their own ungodly desires. These are men who will divide you, who follow mere natural instincts and do not have spirit or love in their hearts. Now, with that said, George Washington, our founder, said deeds, not words. And Abraham Lincoln said, a nation divided cannot stand. And also with that, we have Ma Ferguson, who said, well, I'll be damned, I didn't know that, who was governor of Texas. So dear children of the world, you need your dads back. Thomas Cranmer wrote the wedding vows that most Americans have used since 1549. Those vows never said, did you know in the event of a divorce, your wife or child can lie and have you sent to prison? Those vows of love and assurance and of equal devotion were made in America ever since it began. According to legaljobs.io, there is over 760,000 divorces per year in the USA. That equates to one divorce every 10 to 12 seconds, more than some countries with bigger populations have in an entire decade. Even today, there are good citizens who believe a vow is for life, better or worse, or till death do us part. And unfortunately, those often are the real victims. The wedding vows never said there would be a legal system that profits off of destroying families. And that's what we're focusing on today. There's no warning in wedding vows that tells of countless victims groups and women's groups on social media that would make women and children feel like male presence in the household is a danger. Find it on Facebook, find it on YouTube, and in books like Hit 'Em Where It Hurts, and even kids telling kids on Snapchat and in PlayStation groups and in games to say dad's raping them or molesting them, to blackmail dads when he turns off the PlayStation, the internet, or takes up a cell phone. Never before was it evident that a wife or a husband could find multiple married couples or singles on Fling, Ashley Madison, and even on Facebook, places where spouses can flock and a married couple can go and find cheating men and women by the millions just a click away. and to be discreet, and no one will ever know, or will they? No one would ever guess that we live in a time that the courts would become weaponized in a way to where the police and CPS and websites and neighbors and blogs and videos and courts and legal counsel and even local schools and children's books can teach a narrative and advise a child or a spouse how to create a narrative and build false accusations toward another parent. This happens in districts of courts that are willing to press criminal.
Mr. Stanczyk, your time has expired. If you could conclude, please.
Yes. But with that being said, simply by going online and researching media stories of abuse and watching movies, a spouse or a child can make claims to divide people in custody simply by going online and clicking. You can find ways to destroy a spouse in restraining orders simply by lying or using the law as a weapon against them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Our next public speaker is Sam Jandro. Mr. Jandro, you have the floor.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can.
Excuse me. Thank you. I am here to speak about the remote proceedings agenda item as well. I am an attorney up in Fort Worth. I'm a solo practitioner, and I have a pretty high volume practice. And just wanted to, of course, thank you for the work you've done so far on the remote proceedings issue, for approving Steve Fisher's resolution a few months ago on continued use of remote proceedings. Just wanted to speak from the practitioner's perspective. I know, of course, most of you are practitioners, but as someone with a particularly high volume practice, the use of Zoom has significantly changed my practice for the better. Switch back to a lot of in-person court has, of course, made my practice significantly more logistically difficult. And frankly, this has actually caused me to have to cut back on the volume of clients I'm taking, as well as, of course, pass along higher bills to clients. So I definitely don't think that everything should be done by Zoom. I think some things should absolutely be done in person with everyone in the courtroom. But with that being said, for some things, I think any nuisances associated with the use of Zoom, and there are nuisances, absolutely, are outweighed by really the ability for more people to have attorneys, to not have their legal bills be quite so steep. So I thank you for your work on this so far, and I just wanted to let you know that from my perspective, at least, I think it's very important. And I believe that most other attorneys I've talked to do agree with the continued use of Zoom, at least for some types of hearings. Thank you. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Jandro. Our final public speaker is Joseph Villarreal. Sir, you have the floor.
Hey, good morning, y'all. My name is Joseph Villarreal. I wanted to thank y'all for y'all's time. I'm in favor of Zoom hearings. I appreciate the last speaker's testimony that was a practicing lawyer, right? I think probably 75 to 85% of all court cases should be able to be conducted on Zoom hearings. There's really nothing to hide, right? We're in 2022. There should be no reason why we're not able to move family court hearings remotely to be brought into a technology day and age that we live within. It's easier for the litigants, it's easier for the lawyers, and it's easier for court watchers as well. I'm friends with Taryn Champagne, George Saldana, a lot of other people that unfortunately weren't able to get signed up for it. And the reality is we've got major issues within family courts. I've watched several court hearings in person and online, and I can say without a doubt that when there is a watchful eye of the public watching what's going on with these court proceedings, judges act differently. As a matter of fact, recently there was a court hearing. Let's just say the Supreme Court were able to watch. criminal courts were able to watch online? Why is there such a resistance for online hearings to be conducted in family court services? There might be rare extremities where there's physical abuse, sexual abuse, that shouldn't be broadcast, but that's a small percentage of court hearings that we hear. We know that there is a court, the Texas Family Law Foundation lobbies for the Court Reporters Association, whatever that falls under, right? So these court reporters are already paid by the county, and then litigants that get drugged through family courts then also have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for court transcripts, which we don't have the money for that stuff. So I'm all in favor for Zoom hearings.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
My apologies for mispronouncing your name.
Oh, actually, you did quite well. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public who have signed up to speak?